Craig, looking ahead to Liverpool against Leicester, Mohamed Salah's back. He's in training. Jurgen Klopp said his first day back, he kind of felt his mind was still on the final. Do you start him if you're Jurgen Klopp against Leicester at Anfield on Thursday?
I do, yes. And I say, let's go out there and normal service resume and, put the final to the side, put disappointments to the side and brush yourself down and get on with it. Life's full of disappointments. It's about business now. And the quicker he gets back to business and in front of the Kop and at Anfield and back on form and back scoring goals, the better. There's no time for feeling sorry for yourself. It's a game of football. They lost. And his club or his employers. And yeah, it's not easy. You're flying and you're traveling and you're playing and all that. I think if he doesn't play, it would be more for fatigue reasons than for mental reasons for me. But all things being equal, Mark, I get him back in the side because this is another big game for Liverpool. Look, Liverpool can ill afford many, if any, slip-ups in their quest to chase down Man City in the Premier League, because you don't really look at City and go, oh, I can see them losing 3 or 4 games. So Liverpool have to be on the money. And to be on the money, you'll have to play your best players.
If Leicester concede 4 against Nottingham Forest, how do they stop Liverpool from scoring?
Well, good question. Don't forget it was Leicester that inflicted, I think memory serves me right, a defeat on Liverpool at the King Power. It was a bad night at the office for Klopp's men down in the East Midlands. So they'll want to put that right. But they just look out of sorts, Leicester. I mean, I know there was talk about why he left Casper Schmeichel out at the weekend against Nottingham Forest, but they were just poor. And defensively, they've been poor all season. They started the season all over the place with, Evans had an injury. Soyuncu was making mistakes this time. Vestergaard from Southampton. They brought in some reinforcements in the fullbacks positions. There's been no stability within that back four. And Rodgers is really searching at the moment. The only one plus point in terms of the player pool is the fact that they've got one of the best youngsters, I think, in England back from an ACL and James Justin. I think he's a terrific young player and he's fit again and available again, I believe, and has been for a little bit of time. That's the kind of one positive, and I'm grasping at that. So, yeah, there can be a dangerous side, I suppose, with, Tielemans in there and Maddison and Vardy and Iheanacho and others. They can be dangerous. But let's not forget, there was a full Leicester side, full team went to Anfield for the Carabao Cup. And it was Liverpool's Carabao Cup team, effectively with youngsters. And they got a bloody nose that night. So the chances of them, I think, upsetting the apple cart here with the form they're in, I think is slim.
Brendan Rodgers has done a really good job at Leicester, but he's under a bit of pressure right now, going back to one of his former teams. How much pressure is he under?
Well, I think it's a bit ridiculous here because he's one of the better coaches. They've won the FA Cup recently. I think they're the holders from last season. Memory serves me right. They've been vying for top 4. They've played some great stuff and they're having a downtime. And because they're having a downtime, all the usual suspects are sort of throwing his name out there for the sack, which is quite ridiculous because no manager can just keep going, particularly without the biggest budget, producing result after result after result. But it's how he picks this team up, Mark, between now and the end of the season and then going into next season, I think that will define him again. How he comes back from this problematic period and how Leicester go and recruit in the summer. I think if we're at this stage next year and they're still sort of flapping around and playing poorly, it might be a different story. But man, I think it's modern day football when we're talking about somebody who's done an excellent job at Leicester, potentially been one of the favourites to lose his job. I think it's silly time.
Quite right. Well said, given the fact that as a top manager, someone has got to be having their head on the chopping block, whether it's in social media or the press. This is a bit of a nonsense. What about Liverpool chasing Manchester City? Is it just a case of, you never know, they may slip up, they have done a couple of times, and just keep going and putting points on the board? They know they're better than everybody else in the league, but just City to catch. So what's the mentality of the Reds?
Just keep putting the pressure on. Just keep putting the pressure on and hope to see some cracks in City. There has been a glimmer now and again. I'm thinking the Southampton game recently down in the South Coast. where Southampton were particularly good on the counter-attack. I think it was Crystal Palace at home, which was a big surprise, although they're a decent side. And there had been one or two others. So they're not infallible. But they've said Liverpool, if Liverpool are going to go all the way and push it right to the end, they're going to have to put an almost flawless run of Premier League games together. That's a lot to ask. It's not impossible, but it's a lot to ask. It's unlikely, Mark, we see Liverpool overhaul Manchester City, but that's not the kind of talk they'll be having in the Anfield dressing room at the moment.
All eyes will be on the team sheet at Anfield. Mohamed Salah's back. Likely to start? We'll find out an hour before kickoff.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.